Get out! Get out of my store right now! Diane Parker's voice cracked with rage as she jabbed her finger toward the glass doors, her face flushed crimson. The entire boutique fell silent. Crystal chandeliers seemed to dim under the weight of her fury. "Security, James, remove this person immediately. He's disturbing my customers." Marcus Chen stood motionless, his worn Nikes planted firmly on Italian marble. He didn't flinch, didn't argue, just checked his watch. 2:59 p.m., 1 minute left. Around him, phones rose like flowers turning toward sunlight, recording, streaming, witnessing. What happened in the next 60 seconds would destroy everything Diane had built over 15 years, and she had absolutely no idea. Before we dive into this story, hit that subscribe button and stick with us until the very end. Comment below with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now let's go back to where it all began. Marcus had walked through those glass doors exactly 17 minutes earlier. 2:42 p.m. The timestamp would matter later. The chime announced his arrival, a soft, expensive sound that whispered rather than rang. He stepped onto floors so polished he could see his reflection. Faded jeans, gray hoodie sneakers with a small tear along the left sole. His backpack hung from one shoulder, sagging slightly. The boutique smelled like money. Leather and wood polish and something floral he couldn't identify. Probably cost more per ounce than most people's lunch. Victoria Reynolds noticed him immediately. She was helping an elderly woman examine pearl necklaces, each strand worth more than a new car. Victoria's hands moved with practiced grace, lifting the jewelry into the light, murmuring about luster and origin. But her eyes tracked Marcus like a security system. "These are from the South China Sea," Victoria was saying, but her attention had splintered. "Hand-selected by our buyer in Hong Kong. Note the uniformity of size." Marcus moved toward the watch counter slowly. Not sneaking, not rushing, just walking like a man who had every right to be there, which he did. Behind the counter, watches gleamed under specialized lighting. Patek Philippe, Vacheron Constantin, Audemars Piguet, names that separated the wealthy from everyone else, price tags that could fund college educations. A blonde woman near the handbag display whispered something to her companion. Both turned to stare. Marcus pulled out his phone to check the time. As he did, something slipped partially from his pocket, the edge of a first-class boarding pass. Tokyo. Gate visible. Departure time 6:45 a.m. tomorrow. He tucked it back absently. Victoria finished with her customer. The elderly woman left carrying a small bag with ribbon handles, probably containing $10,000 worth of pearls. Victoria stood motionless for 3 full seconds, her back to Marcus, organizing jewelry that didn't need organizing, making him wait. Marcus scrolled through his phone. Patient. His car keys hung from his belt loop. Casual observers might miss the Bentley logo catching the light. His backpack, worn as it was, bore a small leather tag. Hermès. Subtle. Most people wouldn't recognize it. "Excuse me." Victoria turned slowly as if he'd interrupted something important. Her expression was carefully blank, the way people look at strangers asking for directions. "Yes. Not how can I help you, not welcome to Sterling and Blake. Just, yes. I'd like to look at that Patek Philippe, please." Marcus pointed to the Nautilus model, blue dial, stainless steel, the kind of watch that had 5-year waiting lists. Victoria's eyebrows rose. Then she laughed. It wasn't a polite chuckle or an embarrassed giggle. It was a short, sharp bark of amusement that made the couple near the scarves turn around. "Sir," Victoria crossed her arms, "that watch starts at $85,000. "I'm aware." "I really don't think—" "I'd like to see it, please." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Near the entrance, store manager Diane Parker noticed the interaction. She'd been reviewing inventory reports on her tablet, but something about Victoria's body language triggered her attention. 15 years managing luxury retail had given her instincts about these situations. Usually wrong instincts, but strong ones. Diane started walking over her heels, clicking against marble like a countdown. "Is there a problem, Victoria?" "No, ma'am. This gentleman was asking about the Nautilus." Diane's gaze swept over Marcus. took in every detail, cataloged and filed and judged in 3 seconds. I see. Diane's smile didn't reach her eyes. Sir, that's a very exclusive piece. Perhaps I could show you something more accessible. We have a lovely selection of pre-owned watches that might be more appropriate for... I want to see the Nautilus. Marcus's voice remained calm, level, no anger, no frustration, just clarity. The thing is, Diane stepped closer, lowering her voice conspiratorially. That particular model requires a deposit just to handle, for insurance purposes. You understand. How much? Diane blinked. She'd expected him to back down. $25,000. The number hung between them like a challenge. Across the store, a teenage girl pulled out her phone. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. Within seconds, she was live streaming to TikTok. Username Rodeo Watcher, 47 followers, about to become much more. Something's happening at Sterling & Blake, she whispered to her phone. This feels weird. Marcus reached for his wallet. The movement made Victoria's hand twitch toward the silent alarm under the counter. She didn't press it, not yet, but her fingers stayed close. Would you prefer cash or wire transfer? Marcus asked. Diane's professional smile froze. I'm sorry. For the deposit, cash or wire transfer, I can also do certified check if you need written documentation. Victoria and Diane exchanged looks, real confusion now mixed with something else. Doubt, maybe, or the first whisper of recognition that they'd misjudged. Let me get your information first, Diane said. Name the Marcus Chen. And you're interested in purchasing today? That's why I'm here. Diane pulled out her tablet, started typing. Contact number? Marcus rattled off his number. Diane typed, paused, frowned. And what do you do, Mr. Chen? I run an investment firm. Which firm? Johnson Chen Investment Group. Diane typed the name into Google. Her screen loaded. Her face went pale, then pink, then red. She angled the tablet away so Marcus couldn't see, but Victoria leaned over. Her eyes went wide. Forbes article. 6 months old. Headline visible, Tech mogul Marcus Chen expands retail portfolio, $2.3 billion investment firm targets luxury market. Photo showed Marcus. Same face, different clothes, standing in front of a Manhattan high-rise, arms crossed, looking every inch the billionaire he was. Victoria's hand trembled slightly. Diane recovered faster. She'd made assumptions before and been wrong, but never quite like this. Her brain raced through options. Admit error. Double down, deflect. She chose deflection. Mr. Chen, I apologize for the confusion. However, our store policy requires verification for high-value transactions. I'm sure you understand fraud protection and all that. If you could provide a credit card and identification, we can proceed. Marcus pulled out his wallet, slim, leather, custom-made, though Diane didn't recognize the craftsmanship. He set a card on the glass counter. Black, heavy, metal construction. The kind of credit card that had no spending limit because people who carried them didn't need limits. Victoria picked it up like it might bite her. The name embossed on the front read, Marcus A. Chen. I'll need to verify this, Victoria stammered. Of course. Marcus checked his phone. 2:51 p.m., 9 minutes left. Victoria walked to the back office, card in hand. Her heels clicked faster than usual. Diane stayed at the counter. Professional smile back in place, but strained now, like a mask that didn't quite fit. So, Mr. Chen, investment firm, that must be exciting. It has its moments. And you're looking for an anniversary gift, you said. I didn't say that, but yes. How lovely. How many years? 5. Congratulations. Thank you. The conversation died. Diane's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. A notification from the store's corporate oversight system. Unusual transaction activity detected. All large purchases triggered automatic alerts. Standard security protocol. Nothing to worry about. Except Diane was worrying. The teenage girl's live stream had jumped to 340 viewers. Comments rolling past faster than she could read them. This is awkward AF. Why are they treating him like that? Something's about to happen. Store seems sus. Near the scarf display, an older customer whispered to her husband. That's the man from Forbes, Marcus Chen. He bought those buildings in Manhattan. Her husband squinted. In those clothes? Rich people don't always dress like it, honey. Rodeo Watcher caught this on her stream. 890 viewers now. Marcus stood perfectly still, hands clasped behind his back. To anyone watching, he looked patient, calm, but his eyes tracked everything. Victoria's nervous walk to the back office, Diane's forced smile, the other customers pretending not to stare while absolutely staring. Security guard James Wilson watched from his post near the entrance. Former LAPD, 12 years on the force before retiring to private security. He'd learned to read situations, and this one was reading wrong. Not dangerous wrong, just off. The black customer Marcus hadn't done anything threatening, hadn't raised his voice, hadn't made demands, just asked to see merchandise in a store that sold merchandise. But Diane was tense. Victoria was nervous, and that tension was spreading through the boutique like perfume. James's hand drifted to his radio. Didn't key it, just touched it. Ready? Victoria returned from the back office. Her face had lost color. Mr. Chen, the card is processing. It's just, there's a flag in the system. What kind of flag? Verification required for large transactions. Standard protocol. How long does verification take? Usually 10 to 15 minutes. Marcus checked his watch. I have 6 minutes before my next appointment. You're next? Diane stopped. Appointment where? Nearby. Something in his tone made Diane's stomach clench. Mr. Chen, perhaps we could schedule a time for you to return. We'll have everything ready, the watch examined and prepared for purchase. We could even arrange a private showing. I'm here now. I'd like to see the watch now. Diane's smile cracked slightly. Sir, you have to understand our position. We can't just show merchandise to customers. The words landed soft but heavy. A well-dressed woman near the handbag display stopped pretending to browse. Excuse me, but what's the problem here? He's asking to see a watch. You sell watches. What's the issue? Diane spun toward her. Ma'am, please. It's not between anyone. It's a customer asking to see a product. The woman's voice carried authority. I've shopped here for 3 years and I've never been asked for a deposit just to look at something. Victoria jumped in. That's because you're a regular customer, Mrs. Patterson. We know you. And you don't know him, so that makes him suspicious. Rodeo. Watcher's stream hit 100 viewers. Diane felt control slipping. The room was watching now. Everyone had opinions. And that woman, Mrs. Patterson, was a VIP customer, spent over $40,000 a year at Sterling & Blake. This is not about suspicion, Diane said firmly. This is about store policy. Your policy is discriminatory. The accusation came from a young black woman browsing watches 3 counters down, college-aged, designer purse. She'd been quiet until now. That is absolutely not, Diane started. I was here last month, tried to look at watches, got the same treatment. Maybe try something more affordable. Do you understand the pricing? Same script. The young woman's voice shook slightly, but she didn't back down. I ended up buying a Rolex at Tourneau down the street. They were happy to help. Other customers murmured. Marcus's phone buzzed. Text message preview visible on screen. Board meeting pushed to 3:15. Still conference room B. Marcus silenced the phone, but Diane saw the message. Saw board meeting and conference room B. Where exactly is your next appointment, Mr. Chen? Marcus met her eyes. Upstairs. Upstairs where the executive office is. Diane's heart stopped. There were no executive offices upstairs. Sterling & Blake's corporate headquarters was in New York. This building housed the boutique and nothing else. Except Diane had received a strange email this morning. Subject line, Building Ownership Transfer Complete. She'd assumed it was a clerical notice. Property management changing hands, nothing that affected day-to-day operations. She'd deleted it without reading the details. There are no offices upstairs, Diane said slowly. There are now. Marcus checked his watch. 2:57 p.m. 3 minutes. Victoria's card reader chimed. Transaction approved. Credit line verified at no limit. The screen flashed green. Victoria stared at it like it had personally betrayed her. "The card cleared," she whispered. Diane grabbed the reader, saw the approval, saw the credit line, saw that she'd just spent 15 minutes questioning a man who could buy the entire store's inventory without his bank blinking. "Mr. Chen, I apologize for the delay. We can absolutely show you the watch now." Too late. Marcus picked up his credit card, slid it back into his wallet, pocketed his wallet. Too late. Diane's voice pitched higher. "I have 2 minutes before my meeting, not enough time." "But the card is verified. We can complete the transaction. I'm no longer interested in completing the transaction here." The words landed like stones. Diane's professional composure shattered. "Mr. Chen, please, let me make this right. We can expedite." "You had 17 minutes to make it right. You spent those 17 minutes treating me like a shoplifter." "That's not—" "I asked to see a watch. You asked for a deposit. I offered payment. You questioned my ability to pay. I provided identification. You verified my identity and still made me wait." Marcus's voice never rose, but it filled the room. "At no point did you simply show me the watch I asked to see." Mrs. Patterson spoke up again. "I've never been asked for a deposit, not once." The young black woman added, "Neither have my white friends." Rodeo watchers stream for 200 viewers. Hashtag Sterling Blake Karma. Trending in Los Angeles. Diane felt the walls closing in. Every instinct screamed at her to fix this, salvage this, make this customer happy before he walked out and told everyone he knew about this disaster. But she didn't know how to fix it without admitting she'd been wrong. And admitting she'd been wrong meant admitting why she'd been wrong. She couldn't say that out loud. "Mr. Chen, I'm sorry you feel that way, but our policies exist for everyone's protection. Your policies seem to protect some people more than others. That's not fair, isn't it?" Marcus started toward the door. Diane panicked. "Security?" James Wilson stepped forward reluctantly. "Ma'am." "Don't let him leave." James frowned. "Ma'am, he hasn't done anything. He's disrupting business, making other customers uncomfortable." Every customer in the store looked comfortable, except Diane. Marcus stopped walking, turned around slowly. "I'm making customers uncomfortable, yes. By asking to see a watch, by being difficult and confrontational. I haven't raised my voice once. Your attitude, my attitude." For the first time, emotion crept into Marcus's voice. "My attitude has been polite and patient while you've questioned my credibility, my ability to pay, and my right to shop here. My attitude is the only thing that's kept this from becoming what you're afraid it's becoming." Diane's face flushed crimson. "Get out." The boutique went silent. "What? Get out! Get out of my store right now." There it was. The fury she'd been swallowing for 17 minutes unleashed. "Security, James, remove this. This person immediately, he's disturbing my customers." James didn't move. "Ma'am, I really don't think—" "Do your job or I'll find someone who will—" Marcus stood motionless, calm, like a man watching a play he'd seen before. Around him phones rose, recording, streaming, witnessing. Rodeo Watchers' viewer count exploded 6,800. Marcus checked his watch, 2:59 p.m. 1 minute, he said quietly. 1 minute until what? Diane demanded. Marcus didn't answer. He pulled out his phone, typed a quick message. "Ready for 3 p.m. meeting. See you upstairs." "What meeting?" Diane's voice cracked. "There's nothing upstairs." Marcus looked at her directly. "There's everything upstairs, Miss Parker. Everything you should have checked your email about this morning." He turned toward the door. "Wait." Diane lurched forward, but Marcus was already pushing through the glass doors. The chime announced his departure. Soft, expensive, final. Diane stood frozen. Her phone began buzzing. Not one notification. Dozens. Email alerts, corporate messages, calendar invitations. Subject line, Emergency Board Meeting Conference Room, B3:00 p.m. RE Incident Review. Sender Marcus A. Chen, CEO Johnson, Chen Investment Group. Her hands shook as she opened the email. Victoria whispered, "Diane, what did we just do?" Diane read the email, then read it again, then felt her legs go weak. The building transfer she'd deleted that morning, Johnson Chen Investment Group. Purchase completed 5:00 p.m. yesterday. Sterling and Blake's landlord knew, as of 17 hours ago, was Marcus Chen, and she'd just screamed at him to get out of his own property. Her phone rang. Corporate number. She answered with trembling fingers. "This is Patricia Wong, legal counsel for Johnson Chen Investment Group. You need to get to conference room B immediately. We're waiting." The call ended. Victoria grabbed Diane's arm. "What's happening?" Diane couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Rodeo Watcher's stream hit 12,000 viewers. The caption updated, "Boutique manager kicks out billionaire owner. This is insane." Comments flooded past. "She's so fired. Oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Karma is real." Mrs. Patterson shook her head sadly. "I've been shopping here for 3 years. After today, never again." She walked out, designer bag swinging. The young black woman followed. "Same. I'm done." 3 more customers left without buying anything. James Wilson stood by the door, watching the disaster unfold with professional detachment. "You want me to call anyone, Ms. Parker?" Diane couldn't answer. Her 15-year career was ending. She could feel it. Every assumption she'd made, every judgment she'd trusted, every instinct she'd followed, all of it collapsing like a building with a bad foundation. Victoria picked up the black credit card still sitting on the counter. He didn't forget anything, Diane whispered. He left it on purpose. Evidence. Evidence of what? Everything. Diane's phone buzzed again. Another email. This one from her district manager. Subject, immediate action required, legal review initiated. She didn't open it. Couldn't. Instead, she looked around her boutique. Crystal chandeliers, Italian marble, silk displays, luxury watches gleaming behind reinforced glass. Everything she'd worked for, everything she'd built. About to come crashing down because she'd looked at a man in worn jeans and made a choice. The wrong choice. The elevator above the store chimed softly. Marcus Chen stepped out into conference room B, where 4 video screens were already activated and waiting. He set his backpack down, pulled out his laptop, connected to the secure network. At exactly 3:00 p.m., the screens came alive. "Marcus!" Patricia Wong's voice was crisp and professional. "I've been monitoring the live stream. 17,000 viewers now. Quite a performance." On the second screen, David Kim shook his head. "In 28 years of retail operations, I've never seen anything quite that blatant. The footage is comprehensive." The third screen showed Robert Sterling himself, calling from his yacht off Monaco, tanned and bewildered. "Marcus, I don't understand. Why didn't you just identify yourself? This could have been avoided." Marcus powered up his laptop. "Could it, Robert? Or would they have just been more polite while thinking the exact same things?" The fourth screen activated. Dr. Amelia Harrison, Diversity and Inclusion Consultant, former federal civil rights investigator. "I've reviewed the security footage from the past 90 days, she said. "This isn't an isolated incident, it's a pattern." Marcus opened his presentation file. "Let's talk about what we're really here to discuss. The systematic exclusion of customers based on appearance and race, and what we're going to do about it." Down below in the boutique, Diane Parker stared at her phone. The email was still open. The one she'd deleted that morning without reading. She opened it now. Read every word. "Building ownership transferred to Johnson Chen Investment Group effective 5:00 p.m. June 29th. All lease agreements under review. Performance metrics being assessed across all tenant properties." Below that in smaller text, undercover operational assessment scheduled for June 30th, 3:00 p.m. Today. She'd known. The information had been there. She'd just chosen not to see it. The same way she'd chosen not to see Marcus Chen as a legitimate customer. the same way she'd chosen assumptions over evidence. Her phone rang again. "This is Diane Parker." "Ms. Parker, you need to come upstairs now. Conference room B. Don't bring anyone with you." The voice was female, professional, absolutely uncompromising. Diane looked at Victoria, at James, at the handful of customers still browsing awkwardly. "I have to go," she whispered. Victoria grabbed her hand. "Diane, what's happening? What's happening is exactly what we deserve." Diane walked to the elevator on legs that felt like water. The doors closed behind her with a soft, expensive sound, just like the chime that had announced Marcus Chen's arrival 18 minutes earlier. 18 minutes that would cost her everything. The elevator climbed slowly toward consequences she couldn't escape. And in conference room B, Marcus Chen pulled up the first slide of his presentation, Sterling and Blake Boutique Incident Analysis and Corrective Action Required. Below Rodeo Watchers live stream hit 21,000 viewers. The real meeting was about to begin. The elevator doors opened with a whisper that sounded like a death sentence. Diane Parker stepped into a hallway she'd never seen before. Polished concrete floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Rodeo Drive, modern art on the walls, the kind that cost more than her annual salary. Her heels clicked against the floor. Each step felt like walking toward an execution. Conference room B sat at the end of the hall. Glass walls. She could see figures inside, screens glowing. Marcus Chen standing at the head of a table, laptop open, looking exactly like what he was, a man in complete control. Diane's hand trembled as she reached for the door handle. "Miss Parker." A woman's voice stopped her. "I'm Patricia Wong, legal counsel for Johnson Chen Investment Group." Patricia stood beside the door, elegant suit, tablet in hand, expression that revealed nothing and everything. "Before you enter, I need to inform you that this meeting is being recorded for legal purposes. Anything you say can and will be used in our assessment. Do you understand?" Diane's throat closed. "Am I being sued?" "That depends entirely on the next 30 minutes. Do you understand the recording consent?" "Yes." "Then please come in." The conference room felt larger than it should. Marcus stood at the far end. 3 video screens showed different people, a woman in a business suit, an older Asian man, and someone Diane recognized with a sinking stomach, Robert Sterling, the founder. Her ultimate boss, calling from his yacht 9,000 miles away. "Sit down, Ms. Parker." Marcus's voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. Diane sat. The chair was expensive and comfortable and felt like sitting on broken glass. "I'm sure you have questions," Marcus said. "I don't understand what's happening." "Don't you—" Patricia Wong pulled up a chair beside Diane. "Let me clarify. At 2:42 p.m. today, you witnessed Marcus Chen enter Sterling and Blake Boutique. Over the following 17 minutes, you and your staff subjected him to discriminatory treatment based on his appearance. That treatment was recorded by your security systems and live-streamed by a customer to 4 platforms. Current viewer count is 23,000 and climbing." The number hit Diane like a physical blow. Marcus clicked his laptop. The main screen filled with footage, security camera angle, high definition, timestamp visible 2:42 p.m., Marcus entering the store, walking to the watch counter, waiting patiently while Victoria ignored him. "Stop." Marcus paused the video. "Ms. Parker, how long did Victoria make Mr. Chen wait before acknowledging him?" Diane's mouth felt dry. "I don't know." 3 minutes and 40 seconds. While helping another customer, which is understandable. But watch what happens after that customer leaves. The video resumed, Victoria finishing with the elderly woman, standing motionless, organizing jewelry that didn't need organizing, making Marcus wait an additional minute before turning around. 4 minutes 40 seconds total, Patricia noted. Compare that to this footage from earlier today. The screen split. New footage showed a white man in similar casual clothes, jeans, sneaker, hoodie. Victoria approached him within 30 seconds. "Can I help you find anything?" Victoria's voice was warm, welcoming. Diane felt sick. "Coincidence?" Marcus asked. Victoria was busy. Was she? The screen showed 15 more examples. Split-screen comparisons. White customers in casual clothes, immediate service. Black and Hispanic customers in casual clothes, delays skepticism suggestions to try other stores. David Kim spoke from his screen. Ms. Parker, I've analyzed 3 months of security footage. The pattern is undeniable. Customers of color wait an average of 3 times longer for service. They're asked about budgets 5 times more frequently. They're shown lower-priced alternatives without requesting them. The data doesn't lie. I never told anyone to treat customers differently. You didn't have to. Dr. Amelia Harrison leaned forward on her screen. Discrimination doesn't require explicit instructions. It operates through assumptions, body language, and learned behavior. Your staff has been trained either deliberately or through observation to profile customers based on appearance. Marcus pulled up another slide. Let's talk about today specifically. I asked to see a watch. What was Victoria's response? The video played. Victoria's sharp laugh. Sir, that's not really in your price range. Diane closed her eyes. Hearing it again made it worse. I didn't authorize her to say that. You didn't need to. You hired her. You trained her. You created the culture where she thought that was acceptable. Marcus advanced the video. And when I persisted, you personally intervened. Why? I was trying to help. Help who, me, or protect your store from someone you assumed was wasting your time. The video showed Diane approaching. Her expression, the way she looked Marcus up and down, the calculation in her eyes. I understand the price, Diane heard her own voice say. That particular model requires a deposit just to handle. $25,000, Marcus added. A policy that's nowhere in your employee handbook. A requirement you invented in the moment. Why? Insurance purposes. Interesting. Patricia pulled up documentation on her tablet. I called Sterling & Blake's insurance carrier this morning. They have no such requirement. High-value items are covered under standard retail liability. No handling deposits needed. The walls were closing in. I was being cautious. With me specifically, Marcus asked, or with all customers? Diane couldn't answer. The video continued. Marcus offering cash or wire transfer. Diane's shock, her recovery, the demand for identification and credit card verification. I need to verify this, Victoria's voice said on the recording. Of course, Marcus replied. Patricia froze the video on Marcus's credit card lying on the counter. That's a Centurion card, invitation only, no spending limit, issued to approximately 0.01% of the population. Your staff treated it like a suspicious fraud attempt. Robert Sterling finally spoke from his yacht. His voice sounded tired, defeated. Diane, I've known you for 8 years. You've been manager for 4. I never imagined you would... He stopped. Why didn't you just show him the watch? I was following protocol. What protocol? Robert's voice rose. We don't have a protocol for humiliating customers. We have a protocol for excellent service regardless of who walks through our doors. He wasn't dressed appropriately. Appropriately. Marcus leaned forward. Define appropriately, Ms. Parker. You know what I mean. Say it. People who can afford our merchandise dress a certain way. What way? You're twisting my words. I'm asking you to explain them. Marcus pulled up more footage. This man bought a $40,000 watch yesterday, jeans and a t-shirt. This woman purchased $60,000 in jewelry last week, yoga pants and sneakers. This couple spent $90,000 on their anniversary, both wearing athletic wear. He paused. They're all white. None of them were asked for deposits. None were questioned about their ability to pay. Why? Diane had no answer. The video advanced to the final confrontation, Diane's face turning red, her voice rising. Get out of my store, right now. Patricia stopped the video. Ms. Parker, you ordered a customer removed from the premises without cause. That customer happened to be the CEO of the company that owns your building. But let's pretend for a moment you didn't know that. Let's pretend he was just a regular customer. What justification would you give for having him forcibly removed? He was causing a disturbance. Was he? The video showed Marcus standing calmly, other customers defending him. The only person disturbed was Diane herself. He was making customers uncomfortable. Which customers? Patricia pulled up more footage. This woman defended him. This man questioned your policies. This young woman called you discriminatory to your face. The only person uncomfortable was you, Ms. Parker, and you were uncomfortable because your assumptions were being challenged. Doctor, Harrison spoke again. Ms. Parker, I've conducted thousands of bias assessments. What happened today is textbook discrimination, assumption of criminality or poverty based on appearance, escalation when those assumptions are questioned, defensive aggression when confronted with evidence of bias, and most telling, complete inability to recognize the discrimination even when it's recorded and played back. Marcus closed his laptop. Let me be very clear about what happens next. Chen Investment Group acquired this building yesterday at 5 p.m. Your lease is now under our control. Section 14.3 of your lease agreement states that discriminatory practices constitute grounds for immediate termination. Diane's breath caught. You're evicting us. That's one option. One option! Robert Sterling's voice cracked. Marcus, please. I've built this business over 30 years. This is one incident. Is it? David Kim pulled up data. Over the past 90 days, we've documented 23 similar incidents, different customers, same pattern. Today makes 24. 24. Robert looked like he'd been punched. Your store has a reputation problem, Robert, and reputations have consequences. Marcus pulled up social media analytics. The hashtag Sterling Blake Karma is trending number 3 in Los Angeles, number 7 nationally. The video has been shared 18,000 times in 40 minutes. CNN just published an article. Entertainment Tonight requested an interview. The Beverly Hills City Council scheduled an emergency session. Diane felt like she was drowning. What do you want from me? Her voice came out small, broken. I want you to understand what you did. Marcus sat down across from her. I want you to recognize that 17 minutes of assumptions have destroyed years of work, not just yours, Victoria's, James's, every employee in that store, because you looked at a black man in casual clothes and decided he didn't belong. I never say it, Miss Parker. I never thought about race. That's the problem. You didn't think, you reacted, and your reactions were shaped by biases you've never examined. Marcus pulled up another slide. Let's talk about financial impact. Sterling & Blake generates $9.1 million annually. Your customer demographic is 89% white in an area that's only 52% white. You're excluding 66% of potential customers. David Kim added numbers. Conservative estimate, you're losing $4.2 million in annual revenue due to reputation issues in communities of color. Today's incident will accelerate that loss exponentially. Patricia pulled up legal documentation. Under California Civil Code Section 51.7, discrimination in business establishments carries penalties up to $150,000 per incident. With 24 documented cases, we're looking at $3.6 million in potential federal liability. Robert Sterling's face had gone gray. $3.6 million. Plus legal defense costs, insurance premium increases, lost revenue from boycotts, reputational damage to the Sterling brand. Patricia's voice was clinical, professional. Conservatively, this situation could cost you between $8 and $12 million over the next 2 years. That would bankrupt us. Yes, it would. Silence filled the conference room. Marcus let it sit. Let the weight of consequences press down on everyone. Finally, he spoke. Robert, I'm going to offer you 3 options. Option 1, immediate lease termination. Store closes in 30 days. You liquidate inventory and walk away. That's not an option. Option 2, legal action proceeds. 2-year court battle, public hearings, media coverage, discovery process that reveals every discriminatory incident. Your company becomes a case study in retail bias. Robert's hands shook on his yacht's deck. Marcus, please. Option 3, comprehensive reform with public accountability. Complete operational overhaul, new management, mandatory bias training, diversity metrics, public reporting, and a $100,000 donation to civil rights organizations. The room went silent. Diane felt her career ending in real time. New management. Marcus looked at her directly. You're terminated effective immediately, Ms. Parker. 15 years of service ended by 17 minutes of poor judgment. The words landed like stones. You can't. I can. Your employment contract includes a clause about conduct reflecting negatively on the company. Today's video meets that standard. Patricia slid papers across the table. Termination letter, severance package minus training costs incurred. You have 24 hours to remove personal items from the premises. Diane's hands trembled as she picked up the papers. The words blurred through tears she refused to let fall. What about Victoria? Suspended without pay, pending completion of 40-hour bias training, return to work contingent on successful completion and probationary review. She's young. She was following my example, which is why she's getting a second chance. You're not. Robert Sterling spoke again, his voice barely audible. Marcus, if I choose option 3, what does that actually require? Marcus pulled up a detailed breakdown. Immediate actions within 30 days, hire a diversity consultant, implement bias reporting systems, restructure hiring practices, install customer feedback, monitoring technology. Medium-term changes within 90 days, mandatory training for all staff, establish community advisory board, create anonymous feedback systems, implement performance metrics tied to inclusive service, long-term accountability over 12 months, quarterly diversity reporting, annual civil rights compliance audits, establishment of a $50,000 annual diversity scholarship public dashboard showing inclusion metrics. The financial cost, $275,000 first year, compared to $3.6 million in federal penalties, plus legal costs, plus lost revenue. David Kim displayed the comparison. Stores in our portfolio that implemented similar reforms saw revenue increases averaging 28% within 18 months. This isn't charity, Robert, it's smart business. Patricia added the legal framework. Compliance is measured against specific metrics. Customer complaints below 0.5% monthly. Demographic representation within 15% of area demographics. Staff completion of bias training with passing scores. First violation triggers a $50,000 penalty. Second violation results in lease termination. Marcus stood and walked to the window. Below the crowd outside, Sterling and Blake had grown. News vans parked along Rodeo Drive. People holding phones recording documenting history. You have 6 hours before this becomes a statewide political issue, Robert. The mayor's office called. The governor's civil rights task force requested a briefing. After 6 p.m., your options become much more limited. If I agree to option 3, what happens immediately? We hold a joint press conference at 6 p.m. You announce voluntary implementation of comprehensive reforms. We control the narrative. This becomes a story about taking responsibility instead of being forced to change. Robert closed his eyes. When he opened them, he looked older, tired. And Diane is terminated regardless. Her actions created this situation. She doesn't get to be part of the solution. Diane stood abruptly. This is unfair. I made one mistake. 24 mistakes, Dr. Harrison corrected. We have documentation going back 90 days. Today was just the first time someone with power experienced what your regular customers of color have been experiencing for months. I never meant to discriminate. Intent doesn't matter when the impact is the same. Marcus turned from the window. Ms. Parker, you had 17 minutes to show basic human decency to a customer. You chose assumptions over evidence, judgment over service, and when challenged, you chose aggression over reflection. Those choices have consequences. Diane grabbed her purse. I need to call my lawyer. Your employment contract includes mandatory arbitration, but yes, consult counsel. They'll tell you that fighting this will cost more than accepting the severance. Diane walked to the door on legs that barely held her. Patricia opened it for her. Miss Parker, one more thing. Diane turned. Marcus held up her termination letter. You're 51 years old. You've worked in luxury retail for 26 years. You're about to discover what it feels like to be judged on appearance and assumptions. Every job interview, every background check. This video will follow you. Future employers will Google your name and find thousands of articles about the manager who kicked out a billionaire. They'll make assumptions about who you are based on 15 minutes of footage. They'll decide you're not worth the risk. He paused. Let it sink in. That's what you did to countless customers. Every person of color who walked through your doors and felt your skepticism, your suspicion, your assumptions about their worth. Now you'll understand how that feels. The door closed behind Diane. The conference room fell silent. Robert Sterling's voice was hoarse. "How do I fix this, Marcus?" "You start by signing the reform agreement. And then you do the work. Real work. Uncomfortable work. The kind that challenges everything you thought you knew about your business and your customers and yourself." Patricia pulled up the digital signature page. "Mr. Sterling, we need your consent within the hour. After that, the media cycle moves forward without you." Robert stared at the screen, at his company's future, at the choice between destruction and transformation. "If I sign, do I have your word that we'll survive this?" "If you sign and do the actual work, yes. If you sign and perform reform as theater, no." "This requires genuine change, Robert, not PR." David Kim added, "The market data supports this, Mr. Sterling. Inclusive businesses outperform exclusive ones. Your competition is already capturing the customers you're losing. This is about survival." Robert picked up his yacht's tablet. His hand hovered over the signature line. 30 years, he whispered. "I built this company from nothing. And in 30 years you never noticed that 89% of your customers look the same," Marcus said quietly. "That should have told you something." Robert signed. The digital signature appeared across 4 screens simultaneously. Patricia nodded. "Agreement accepted and filed. As of 3:47 p.m. Sterling and Blake is now operating under Chen Investment Group's Diversity Compliance Protocol." Marcus pulled up his phone. "I'm calling the press conference for 6 p.m. David, prepare the statement. Patricia, notify all relevant parties. Dr. Harrison, I want you on site within the hour." Below in the boutique, Victoria's phone buzzed. Email notification. Subject line, "Mandatory suspension training required." She opened it with shaking hands. Her employment was suspended immediately. No pay. Return contingent on completing 40 hours of bias awareness training and passing with 85% or higher. She sat down on the floor behind the watch counter and cried. James Wilson received his notification. Formal written warning. 20 hours of conflict resolution training required within 30 days. He deleted it and updated his resume. The boutique's remaining customers quietly left. Nobody wanted to shop in a store that had become a viral symbol of discrimination. Rodeo Watcher's stream hit 31,000 viewers. In the conference room, Marcus opened a new presentation file. "Now, let's talk about what happens next. The press conference is step 1. Implementation is step 2. Accountability is step 3. And all of it gets documented and reported publicly." Dr. Harrison's face appeared on her screen. She'd arrived at the boutique entrance. "I'm here. Where do you want me to start?" "Customer feedback tablets at every service station. I want real-time data collection starting immediately." "On it." Marcus looked at Robert Sterling's screen. "You're going to do a video statement from your yacht. Raw, honest, taking full responsibility. No lawyers softening the language. No PR team managing the message. Just you admitting you failed to see what was happening in your own stores. People will destroy me. Some will. Others will respect the accountability. Either way, it's better than what happens if you stay silent." Patricia was already drafting the press release. "I'm framing this as voluntary compliance and leadership in addressing systemic issues. It positions Sterling and Blake as proactive rather than reactive." David Kim added, "I'm contacting NAACP Legal Defense Fund and ACLU of Southern California. We need them as partners, not adversaries." The machine of reform was already moving. Marcus checked his watch. 4:15 p.m. In 90 minutes, the narrative would shift. The story would change from "boutique discriminates against customer" to "company chooses accountability and transformation." But first there was work to do. "Robert, I'm sending you the script for your statement. You have 30 minutes to review and record. Patricia." I want the civil rights organizations notified before the press conference. David, prepare the implementation timeline. Dr. Harrison, I want preliminary feedback data before we go public. Everyone moved at once. Marcus stood alone in the conference room, looking down at the boutique where his 17-minute experience had triggered an earthquake. His phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. This is Diane Parker. I just want you to know that I'm not a racist. I made a mistake, but I'm not a bad person. Marcus stared at the message. Then he typed his response. Ms. Parker, the most dangerous people aren't those who consciously hate. They're those who unconsciously discriminate and never examine why. You spent 15 years in a position of power, never questioning why your customers all looked the same. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Every day you chose not to see. He hit send, deleted the conversation, and went back to work changing the system that had allowed Diane Parker to make the same choice for 15 years. Because one person's termination meant nothing if the culture that created her remained intact. And Marcus Chen hadn't spent 17 uncomfortable minutes being profiled just to fire one manager. He'd done it to break a system that had been breaking people for far too long. Dr. Amelia Harrison walked through Sterling & Blake's entrance at 4:20 p.m., carrying a sleek black case and the weight of 3 decades' experience investigating discrimination. She'd seen this pattern before. Luxury retail, unconscious bias, staff who genuinely believed they treated everyone equally while the data screamed otherwise. "Victoria Reynolds," she called out. Victoria looked up from behind the watch counter, eyes red from crying. "That's me. I'm Dr. Harrison. We need to talk. I already got the suspension notice. This isn't about suspension. This is about whether you want to keep your job." Dr. Harrison set her case on the counter and pulled out a tablet. "In the next 30 minutes, I'm installing customer feedback systems throughout this store. You're going to help me. Consider it the first step of your training." Victoria's hands shook. "I don't understand what I did wrong. I was just being careful." "Careful of what? People who look like they can't afford." Victoria stopped, heard her own words, felt them land wrong. Dr. Harrison pulled up the security footage on her tablet. "Watch this. Tell me what you see." The video showed Marcus entering. Victoria's immediate attention, her body language, the subtle shift when she registered his appearance. "I was helping another customer. For 3 minutes. Then you spent another minute organizing jewelry before acknowledging him. Why, I was just—" "Tell me the truth, Victoria. Not what you think I want to hear. The actual truth." Victoria's voice dropped to a whisper. "He looked like he was going to waste my time." "Why?" "Because people dressed like that usually just browse. They don't buy." "Usually." Dr. Harrison pulled up more footage. "This man yesterday, jeans and a concert t-shirt. You helped him immediately. He left without buying anything. This woman last week, yoga pants and flip-flops. You spent 20 minutes showing her jewelry. She also left without buying. What's different about them?" Victoria stared at the screen, at the evidence, at the truth she'd been avoiding. "They're white," she said finally. "Yes." "I didn't think about it that way." "That's the problem. You didn't think. You reacted based on assumptions so deep you didn't even recognize them as assumptions." Dr. Harrison pulled out small tablets from her case. "These are customer feedback devices. Every person who walks through that door will answer 3 questions. Did you feel welcome? Was service professional? Would you recommend this store? The data uploads in real time. No hiding, no excusing, just truth." Victoria watched Dr. Harrison install the first tablet near the entrance. What if the feedback is bad? Then we know what to fix. What if it's good? Then we know what works. Exactly. Dr. Harrison handed Victoria a tablet. "Install one at each service counter. I want data collection starting before the press conference." Upstairs in conference room B, Marcus was on his 4th call with civil rights organizations. NOACP Legal Defense Fund had been skeptical at first. A billionaire CEO calling to admit his newly acquired property had discrimination problems. It sounded like PR damage control. "This isn't about optics," Marcus said into the speakerphone. "This is about systematic change with public accountability and your oversight." The voice on the other end belonged to attorney James Crawford, senior counsel. "Mr. Chen, I've heard this speech before. Companies promise reform after getting caught. Then they do the minimum required and call it progress. Which is why I'm offering you board oversight, quarterly reviews, public reporting, and a $100,000 donation specifically earmarked for retail discrimination cases." Silence on the line. "You're serious." "I'm serious." "Why?" Marcus looked out at Rodeo Drive, at the crowd still gathering, at the news vans and phone cameras, and people documenting history. "Because I'm tired of being treated like a criminal for shopping while black. And I have the resources to do something about it, so I'm doing something about it." James Crawford's voice softened. "When's the press conference?" 6 p.m. I need you there." "I'll be there." The call ended at 4:32 p.m. Patricia Wong looked up from her laptop. "ACLU of Southern California is on board. They're sending Director Michelle Santos. She'll be here by 5:45. David Kim finished another call. "Anti-Defamation League is coordinating their statement with ours. They want to emphasize this as a model for voluntary compliance." Marcus nodded. "Robert, where are we on your statement?" Robert Sterling's face on the screen looked haggard. He'd aged 10 years in 2 hours. "I've recorded it 3 times. It never sounds right." "Show me." Robert played the video. His face filled the screen yacht interior visible behind him, ocean breeze ruffling his hair. "To our valued customers and community members, I want to address today's incident at our Beverly Hills location. It has come to my attention that our service standards have not met the expectations of all customers equally. We are committed to improving and ensuring every person who enters Sterling & Blake feels welcomed and respected. Thank you." Marcus shook his head. "No." "What's wrong with it?" "Everything. You're hiding behind corporate language. 'It has come to my attention' sounds like you just found out. You're calling discrimination an incident. You're not taking actual responsibility." "I am taking responsibility." "Then say it. Say, I failed to create an inclusive environment. I allowed discriminatory practices to develop under my leadership. I'm sorry." No passive voice, no deflection, actual accountability. Robert's jaw tightened. "People will crucify me." "Some will. Others will respect the honesty. Either way, corporate speak will make this worse." Patricia agreed. "Marcus is right. Authenticity is your only play here, Mr. Sterling. Anything less sounds like damage control." Robert closed his eyes. "Give me 10 minutes." The call muted. Marcus checked the time. 4:43 p.m. 77 minutes until the press conference that would either salvage Sterling & Blake's reputation or cement its destruction. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "This is Mrs. Patterson, the customer who defended you today. I've shopped at Sterling & Blake for 3 years and never saw what I saw today. Thank you for not letting it go." Marcus smiled slightly, typed back, "Thank you for speaking up. That mattered." Another text came through, this one from the young black woman who'd confronted Diane. "My name is Keisha Williams. I'm a law student at UCLA. What happened to you today happened to me last month. I want to help however I can." Marcus forwarded the message to Dr. Harrison with a note, "Potential Community Advisory Board Member." Dr. Harrison responded immediately, "Already on it. I'm meeting with her tomorrow." Down in the boutique, the first customer feedback tablet was activated. A middle-aged white woman entered browsing watches. Victoria approached immediately, her service impeccable. At the exit, the woman touched the tablet screen. Question 1. Did you feel welcome? Response: Very much so. Question 2. Was service professional response excellent? Question 3. Would you recommend this store? Response: Yes. Dr. Harrison checked the data upload. Good start, Victoria, but one positive review doesn't erase a pattern. I know. A second customer entered. Young Hispanic man in business casual. Victoria's smile didn't falter. She approached with the same warmth. Welcome to Sterling & Blake. Is there something specific I can help you find? The young man looked surprised. pleasantly surprised. "I'm looking for a watch, something for work." "Excellent. What's your budget range that helps me show you the best options?" He relaxed. "Between 3 and 5,000. Victoria spent 15 minutes with him, showed 3 different options, explained features without condescension. The young man left with a $4,000 purchase and a smile. At the exit, he touched the feedback tablet. All 3 responses. "Excellent." Dr. Harrison made notes. "What changed between this interaction and this morning?" Victoria thought carefully. "I assumed he had a budget instead of assuming he couldn't afford anything." "Why?" "Because you made me see what I was doing, how I was treating people differently without realizing it." One afternoon of awareness doesn't fix years of unconscious bias, but it's a start. Upstairs, Robert Sterling's video was ready. Marcus watched it with Patricia and David. Robert's face filled the screen. No yacht backdrop this time, just white wall, no distractions. His expression was raw, tired, honest. "My name is Robert Sterling. 30 years ago, I opened a jewelry store with the dream of creating luxury experiences. Today, I learned that dream has failed too many people. This morning, Marcus Chen walked into our Beverly Hills location. He was treated with suspicion, dismissed, and ultimately ordered to leave. Not because of anything he did, because of how he looked. Because my staff made assumptions based on appearance. Those assumptions exist because I created a culture that allowed them. I hired people and never trained them to examine their biases. I reviewed sales data and never questioned why our customers all looked the same. I saw complaints and dismissed them as isolated incidents. I failed. Completely. And that failure hurt people. It created an environment where customers of color felt unwelcome, where they were subjected to skepticism and judgment that white customers never experienced. I am deeply sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry it happened at all. Sorry it took being humiliated publicly to recognize what should have been obvious. Starting today, Sterling and Blake is implementing comprehensive reforms, real changes with public accountability. We will report our progress quarterly, we will be measured against specific standards, and if we fail to meet those standards, we will accept the consequences. This isn't PR. This is the beginning of doing the work I should have been doing for 30 years. To every customer we failed, and there have been many, I am sorry. I hope you'll give us a chance to earn back your trust. But I understand if you can't. The video ended. Patricia nodded slowly. That works. David added, It's vulnerable. People will respond to that. Marcus felt something in his chest loosen slightly. Posted at 5:30, 30 minutes before the press conference. Give people time to see it before we go live. At 4:58 p.m., James Wilson was clearing out his locker. 2 other security guards watched him silently. You getting fired? One asked. Written warning, but I'm not staying. Why not? You didn't do anything. James pulled out his uniform shirts. I didn't do enough. I saw what was happening and didn't stop it. That's not the kind of security I want to be. He left his name tag on the desk and walked out. Victoria watched him go. How many of us are going to be left? Dr. Harrison was installing the last feedback tablet. Depends how many of you actually want to change. Some people prefer comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths. Those people need to find other jobs. At 5:15 p.m., Marcus received an unexpected call. The number showed Los Angeles Mayor's office. Mr. Chen, this is Mayor Rodriguez. I've been following today's situation. Mayor Rodriguez. I want to commend you for how you're handling this. Too often these situations become legal battles that help no one. Your approach accountability and reform, that's what we need. Thank you, but the work hasn't started yet. Which is why I'm calling. I'd like to include Sterling and Blake's reform model in our city's retail equity initiative. Would you be willing to present to the city council next month? Marcus glanced at Patricia, who was listening on speaker. She nodded. Yes, Mayor. We'd be honored. Excellent. My office will coordinate details, and Mr. Chen, thank you for not just walking away. It would have been easier. Easier isn't always right. The call ended at 5:18 p.m. Robert Sterling's video went live at 5:30 p.m. Within 3 minutes, it had 20,000 views. Within 6 minutes, 50,000. The comments section filled rapidly. This is how you take responsibility. Finally, a CEO who doesn't hide behind lawyers. Still boycotting, but this is a start. My respect. Actually admitting failure. Actions matter more than words, but these words matter. At 5:37 p.m., attorney James Crawford arrived at Sterling and Blake with 3 colleagues from NOACP Legal Defense Fund. Michelle Santos from ACLU walked in 30 seconds later with her communications director. Marcus met them in the boutique. "Thank you for coming on short notice." Crawford shook his hand. "I watched Sterling's video. That took courage." Courage or desperation? Maybe both. Either way, it's better than most. Michelle Santos looked around the boutique, at the feedback tablets, at Dr. Harrison installing monitoring equipment, at Victoria helping a customer with obvious nervousness but genuine effort. "You're actually doing this, not just talking about it." "We don't have a choice. The data doesn't lie, and neither does viral video." Dr. Harrison approached with her tablet. "I have preliminary feedback. 17 customers since 4:20 p.m. Average rating 3.8 out of 5. 6 customers mentioned noticing improvement in service. 4 customers mentioned still feeling uncomfortable. 2 specifically said they appreciated the feedback tablets." Crawford made notes. "What about demographic breakdown?" White customers 4.1 average. Customers of color 3.2 average. The gap is narrowing but still exists. "How long until it closes completely?" "With intensive training, 3 to 6 months. Without training, never." Marcus checked his watch. 5:49 p.m. 11 minutes until the press conference that would define Sterling and Blake's future. His phone buzzed. Text from Diane Parker. "I'm outside. Can we talk?" Marcus showed the message to Patricia. She shook her head. "Bad idea." "Probably, but I want to hear what she has to say." Marcus walked outside. Diane stood across the street looking smaller somehow, diminished, her professional armor stripped away. "Thank you for meeting me." "You have 2 minutes. I know you think I'm a terrible person." "I don't think you're terrible. I think you're unconscious. And unconscious bias is more dangerous than conscious hate because people like you never examine it." Diane flinched. "I've spent all afternoon thinking about what you said, watching the video, seeing myself. I didn't recognize that person." "That person is you." I know that now. But I spent 15 years believing I was fair, believing I judged people on merit. And today I realized I've been lying to myself." Marcus softened slightly. "What do you want from me?" "I want to understand. How do I fix this? Not the job I know that's gone. But how do I fix myself?" The question surprised him. "You start by sitting with the discomfort. Really sitting with it. Not defending yourself. Not explaining away your behavior. Just accepting that you caused harm. Then you do the work. Read. Learn. Listen to people who've experienced what you inflicted. And maybe in a year or 2, you'll understand enough to help others avoid your mistakes." Diane's eyes filled with tears. "A year or 2. Unlearning 15 years of unconscious bias doesn't happen overnight, Ms. Parker. It's uncomfortable and humbling and necessary. Most people never do it because it requires admitting you were wrong about yourself." "I was wrong about myself." "Yes, you were." Marcus turned to go back inside. "Mr. Chen," he paused, "thank you for not just firing me, for making me see. I didn't make you see anything. I just created a situation where you couldn't avoid seeing. What you do with that is up to you." Marcus walked back into the boutique at 5:56 p.m. Crawford approached. "You didn't have to talk to her." "I know, but she asked the right question. How do I fix myself? Most people never ask that." "Will she actually do the work?" "I don't know, but I gave her the roadmap. Whether she follows it isn't my responsibility." Patricia checked her tablet. "Streaming equipment is ready. We're live in 4 minutes." The boutique had been transformed into a makeshift press conference space. Cameras set up, microphones tested, reporters from 6 different outlets waiting. Rodeo Watcher was there, her phone already streaming. 72,000 followers now. The video that started everything had been viewed 400,000 times. Marcus took his position at the front. Crawford and Santos stood beside him. Robert Sterling appeared on a large screen video feed live from his yacht. At exactly 6 p.m., Marcus began. "Thank you for coming. This afternoon, I walked into Sterling and Blake Boutique dressed casually. Over 17 minutes, I was ignored, questioned, and ultimately ordered to leave. That interaction was recorded and has been viewed by hundreds of thousands of people. What many don't know is that I'm Marcus Chen, CEO of Johnson Chen Investment Group, and as of yesterday, we own the building that houses Sterling and Blake." Reporters shifted, cameras focused. "I didn't reveal my identity during that interaction because I wanted to experience what regular customers experience. What I found was systematic discrimination based on appearance. What I found was a culture that profiles customers and makes assumptions about worth based on clothing and race. What I found was unacceptable." He paused. Let the words land. Sterling and Blake founder Robert Sterling will speak to that failure. But first, I want to be clear about what happens next. This isn't a lawsuit announcement. This isn't about destroying a business. This is about transformation with accountability. Crawford stepped forward. NOACP Legal Defense Fund has reviewed the evidence. The discrimination is undeniable. However, Mr. Chen and Mr. Sterling have agreed to comprehensive reforms with our oversight. This includes immediate policy changes, mandatory training community advisory board, and public reporting of diversity metrics. Santos added, "ACLU of Southern California supports this approach. We've seen too many cases where legal battles drain resources without creating lasting change. This model voluntary compliance with civil rights organization oversight. This is what accountability looks like." Robert Sterling's face filled the screen. "I posted a video statement earlier. I meant every word. I failed to create an inclusive environment. I allowed bias to flourish. And starting today, that changes. Not because of legal pressure, because it's right." A reporter raised her hand. "Mr. Sterling, your former manager, Diane Parker, was terminated. Do you think that's fair?" Robert's jaw tightened. "Diane Parker worked for me for 15 years. I trusted her. But today showed me that trust was misplaced. Her termination is fair. What's not fair is that it took this long for me to see the pattern." Another reporter spoke up. "Mr. Chen, critics might say you orchestrated this for publicity. How do you respond?" Marcus met the camera directly. "I didn't need publicity. I needed change. And I had the resources to force that change. So I did. If that makes people uncomfortable, good. Comfort is what allowed this problem to exist for years." What message do you have for other luxury retailers? The message is simple. Examine your customer demographics. If they don't reflect your community, ask why. The answer will probably make you uncomfortable. But that discomfort is necessary for growth. Rodeo Watcher's stream hit 96,000 live viewers. Crawford fielded the next question. "Our organizations will publish quarterly reports on Sterling and Blake's progress. Full transparency. If they backslide, we'll say so publicly. This only works if accountability is real." The press conference continued for 32 minutes. Questions about implementation, timeline, metrics, consequences. At 6:34 p.m. it ended. Marcus shook hands with Crawford and Santos. "Thank you for trusting this process." "Don't make us regret it," Crawford said with a slight smile. Dr. Harrison approached with her tablet. Feedback data during the press conference, 42 customers entered the store. Average rating jumped to 4.2. Comments include, "Impressed by transparency and willing to give them another chance." Patricia showed Marcus her phone. Social media sentiment is shifting, negative comments dropping, positive commentary increasing. The video of Sterling's apology is being shared more than the original discrimination video. David Kim pulled up financial projections. "Stock market closes in 26 minutes. I'm watching Sterling and Blake's parent company. If we've done this right, we should see minimal impact." They watched the numbers. 6:48 p.m. stock down 2%, 6:52 p.m. stock down 1%, 6:56 p.m. stock flat, 7 p.m. stock up 1.3%. Patricia laughed. "The market is rewarding accountability." Marcus felt tension he'd been carrying since 2:42 p.m. finally release. It's not over. This was just the first step. First step is always the hardest, Crawford said. You've cleared the path, now comes the actual walk. Victoria approached hesitantly. Mr. Chen, can I say something? Of course. Thank you for not just firing everyone, for giving some of us a chance to learn. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm grateful. Deserve has nothing to do with it. This is about whether you're willing to do uncomfortable work. Are you? Yes. Then prove it. At 7:12 p.m. Marcus left Sterling and Blake. Cameras still outside, reporters still asking questions. He answered a few declined others and walked to his car. His phone showed 63 missed calls, 87 texts, most from other business owners asking how he'd handled the crisis, some from friends checking if he was okay, a few from journalists requesting exclusive interviews. He ignored all of them. Instead, he called his wife. Hey, her voice was warm, concerned. I saw everything. Are you okay? I'm tired. Come home. On my way. He ended the call and sat in his Bentley in the parking structure beneath the building he'd bought 24 hours earlier and let himself feel everything he'd been suppressing since 2:42 p.m. Anger at being treated like a criminal, frustration at a system that made this necessary, exhaustion from fighting a battle that shouldn't need fighting, and underneath it all, determination that this wouldn't happen again, not to him, not to anyone. He started the car and drove home, leaving behind the boutique where 17 minutes had changed everything. But the real work was just beginning. The next morning arrived with the weight of consequences nobody had fully anticipated. 7:18 a.m. Victoria Reynolds sat in her apartment staring at her laptop screen. The bias awareness training portal had been emailed to her at 6 a.m. 40 hours of modules, tests after each section. Minimum passing score of 85%. She clicked the first module, Understanding Unconscious Bias in Customer Service. The introduction video showed Dr. Harrison's face. If you're watching this, you've been given a second chance. Most people don't get that. What you do with this opportunity will define not just your career, but the kind of person you choose to be. Victoria's coffee went cold as she watched. The video showed split-screen footage from Sterling and Blake, her interactions with white customers versus customers of color, the timing differences, the tone differences, the assumption differences. She'd never seen it laid out so clearly, never been forced to watch herself discriminating in real time. The first module took 90 minutes. At the end, a test. 20 questions. Question 7 made her stop. A customer dressed casually asks to see expensive merchandise. Your first thought should be, A, they probably can't afford it. B, they might be wasting my time. C, I should verify their interest is genuine. D, I should show them the merchandise they requested. Victoria stared at the question. Yesterday, she would have picked C without hesitation, thought it was the professional answer. Now she understood C was just A and B dressed in professional language. She clicked D. At 7:43 a.m., Diane Parker sat in her lawyer's office. Her attorney, Margaret Chen, no relation to Marcus, had reviewed the termination documents. You don't have a case, Margaret said bluntly. They fired me for one mistake. They fired you for documented discrimination captured on video and viewed by over 1 million people. Your employment contract includes a morality clause. You violated it spectacularly. Diane's hands shook around her coffee cup. So I just accept this 15 years gone. You accept the severance, which is actually generous given the circumstances. 18 months salary minus training costs. Most companies would have given you nothing. How am I supposed to find another job? Everyone knows my face now. Margaret leaned back. That's the real consequence, Diane. Not the termination, the permanent record. Every future employer will Google you. Every interview will include questions about this incident. You're going to spend the next decade explaining 17 minutes of your life. It's not fair. Fair. Margaret's voice hardened. How many customers did you treat unfairly over 15 years? How many people walked into your store and felt exactly what you're feeling now? Judged, dismissed, assumed to be less than they were. Diane had no answer. Margaret softened slightly. You want my advice? Take the severance. Use it to do real work on yourself. Therapy, education, genuine examination of your biases. Then, maybe in a year or two, you'll have a redemption story worth telling. At 8:09 a.m., Marcus Chen walked into Sterling and Blake. The boutique looked the same but felt entirely different. Dr. Harrison had worked through the night. Customer feedback tablets at every station, new training materials posted in the break room, a detailed implementation schedule on the wall. You didn't sleep, Marcus observed. Dr. Harrison looked up from her laptop. Sleep is for people without deadlines. I have 30 days to restructure an entire company culture. Sleep can wait. What's the priority today? Staff meeting at 9 a.m. I need to interview everyone who's staying. Assess who's capable of change and who's just going through motions. Marcus checked his watch. How many staff members are left? 11 out of 17, 6 quit overnight. They saw the video and decided they didn't want to do the work. That's honest, at least. Honesty isn't always admirable. Sometimes it's just cowardice dressed up as self-awareness. At 8:31 a.m., Robert Sterling's phone rang. His yacht was docked in Monaco, but his problems were entirely American. Mr. Sterling, this is Barbara Morrison from Luxury Retail Magazine. We're running a feature on yesterday's incident. Would you like to comment? Robert had been expecting this call. What's the angle of your article? We're examining whether luxury retail has a systemic discrimination problem. Your boutique is the centerpiece, but we've found similar patterns at competitors. Then yes, I'll comment, but on the record not anonymous. I'm done hiding. Barbara's surprise carried through the phone. Most executives in your position avoid press. Most executives in my position haven't watched themselves destroy their reputation on viral video. I don't have the luxury of avoidance anymore. The interview lasted 40 minutes. Robert admitted failures he'd never acknowledged publicly, discussed profits lost by excluding customers, explained the reform process with brutal honesty. Will this save your company? Barbara asked. I don't know, but it might save other companies from making my mistakes. That matters more. At 9 a.m. sharp, Dr. Harrison convened the staff meeting. 11 employees sat in a circle. Victoria was there, eyes still red. 3 other sales associates, 5 support staff, 2 managers who'd been off duty during the incident. Let's establish something immediately, Dr. Harrison began. You're here because you chose to stay. That choice means accepting that this company has a discrimination problem. If you can't accept that, leave now. Nobody moved. Good. Now let's talk about why you stayed. You first. She pointed to a sales associate named Jennifer Walsh. Jennifer shifted uncomfortably. I stayed because I need the job. Honest but insufficient. Needing a job isn't the same as committing to change. Why else? Jennifer thought carefully. Because watching that video made me realize I've probably done similar things without noticing. I want to understand why. Better. You. Dr. Harrison pointed to Marcus Thompson, no relation to the security guard, a support staff member who handled inventory. I stayed because I'm tired of pretending we treat everyone the same when we obviously don't. I've seen it for 2 years, never said anything. That makes me complicit. Dr. Harrison nodded. Accountability. That's what we're building here. Victoria's voice was barely audible. I stayed because I was wrong. About everything, and I need to learn how to be better. Do you understand what being better requires? 40 hours of training is just the start, right? Real change takes longer. Much longer. Years, probably. You'll have to examine every assumption, every reaction, every unconscious thought. It's exhausting and uncomfortable. Still willing? Yes. At 9:47 a.m., Marcus received a call from an unexpected source. The number showed New York area code. Mr. Chen, this is Gabriela Mendez from the New York Times. We're investigating luxury retail discrimination nationwide. Your intervention at Sterling and Blake has opened doors to sources. Would you be willing to share what you've learned? Marcus glanced at Patricia Wong, who was listening on speaker. She nodded. What's your time frame? Feature article publishing Sunday. We have documentation of similar patterns at 12 luxury retailers across 5 cities. Your case is the first where the company owner is taking voluntary action. That makes it newsworthy. What do you need from me? An interview and access to Dr. Harrison's implementation data. We want to show what accountability looks like in practice. Marcus checked with Dr. Harrison, who gave permission. You can have both, but I want something in return. What's that? Name the other retailers. Publicly. Don't let them hide while we do the hard work. Gabriella paused. That's aggressive journalism. My editors might push back. Then find editors who won't. This isn't about protecting industry reputations. It's about protecting customers. I'll make the case. Expect a reporter at Sterling & Blake this afternoon. The call ended at 9:53 a.m. Patricia looked concerned. You just escalated this from one boutique to an industry-wide expose. Good. One store changing accomplishes nothing if the industry ignores the lesson. At 10:12 a.m., Keisha Williams walked into Sterling & Blake. The UCLA law student who'd confronted Diane yesterday carried a folder of documents. Dr. Harrison met her at the entrance. Ms. Williams, thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me. I wasn't sure you'd actually follow through. We don't make empty promises. You mentioned experiencing discrimination here last month. Can you walk me through exactly what happened? Keisha pulled out her notes, detailed, time-stamped. She documented everything like the future lawyer she was training to be. May 14th, 2:20 p.m. I entered wearing business casual because I had a job interview after. I asked to see engagement rings. The sales associate, I don't remember her name, suggested I look at promise rings instead. Quote, these are more appropriate for younger budgets. I'm 26. I have a fellowship that covers tuition plus stipend. My budget was $15,000. Dr. Harrison made notes. What happened next? I asked specifically to see the engagement rings anyway. She showed me 3 options, all under $5,000. Never asked my budget, just assumed. I left and bought a ring at Tiffany for $12,000. They never questioned my ability to pay. Why didn't you file a complaint? Keisha's laugh was bitter. File a complaint where? With the manager who hired staff that treats customers like this, with corporate offices that ignore these problems. I'm a black woman in America, Dr. Harrison. We learn early that complaining about discrimination often costs more than it's worth. That's exactly what we're trying to change. Would you be willing to serve on the Community Advisory Board? What would that involve? Quarterly meetings reviewing customer complaint data, approving policy changes, holding us accountable when we fail. Your voice would have actual power, not just symbolic representation. Keisha studied Dr. Harrison's face. You're serious about this? Completely. Then yes, I'll do it. At 11:03 a.m., the New York Times reporter arrived. Samantha Park, mid-30s, carrying a recording device and sharp questions. Mr. Chen, let's start with the obvious. You're a billionaire. You could have sued Sterling & Blake into bankruptcy. Why didn't you? Marcus had been preparing for this question. Because lawsuits punish without teaching. I wanted transformation, not revenge. Some critics say you're being too lenient, that discriminatory businesses should face maximum consequences. Maximum consequences would have closed one store and changed nothing systemically. This approach might actually shift industry practices. Samantha made notes. Dr. Harrison, you've implemented similar reforms before. How often do they actually stick? Dr. Harrison didn't hesitate. About 40% succeed long-term. The other 60% either half-heartedly comply or backslide once oversight ends. What determines success versus failure? Leadership commitment. If the person at the top genuinely believes in change, it happens. If they're just managing PR, it fails. Mr. Sterling, which are you? Robert answered via video call. Ask me in a year. Right now, I'm a man who destroyed his reputation and is trying to rebuild with integrity. Whether I succeed isn't up to me to judge. At 11:41 a.m., Victoria completed her 3rd training module. The test at the end asked her to analyze video footage and identify discriminatory behavior. She had to watch herself from 3 different dates, had to mark every moment where her service differed based on customer appearance. She found 17 instances in 30 minutes of footage. 17 times she'd made assumptions. Judged. Dismissed. Her score 92%. She'd identified almost all of them. The feedback comment from Dr. Harrison appeared on screen. Awareness is the first step. Recognition is painful but necessary. You're doing the work. Keep going. Victoria closed her laptop and cried. Not from shame this time, from recognition of how much work remained. At 12:14 p.m. Marcus's phone rang. The caller ID showed a name that made him pause. Senator Linda Washington, California's senior senator and chair of the Commerce Committee. Senator Washington? Mr. Chen, I've been monitoring yesterday's situation. I'd like to invite you to testify before the Commerce Committee next month. We're investigating discriminatory practices in luxury retail. Marcus sat down. Testify about what specifically? Your experience, Sterling and Blake's reforms, and your perspective on whether federal legislation is needed to address systemic bias in high-end retail. Do you think legislation is needed? I think voluntary compliance is admirable but rare. Most companies need enforcement mechanisms. Your case might be the exception, but we need policy that addresses the rule. I'll testify. Excellent. My staff will coordinate details. And Mr. Chen, thank you for not staying silent. Too many people with your resources choose comfort over change. The call ended at 12:19 p.m. Patricia looked stunned. You just agreed to federal testimony. That makes this permanent public record. Good. Let it be permanent. Maybe permanent record will create permanent change. At 1:07 p.m., the first crisis of the new regime emerged. A customer complaint came through the feedback system. A white woman upset about being asked to wait while Victoria helped a black customer. Dr. Harrison pulled up the video footage, watched the interaction. Victoria had been helping a black woman select a watch, spending 15 minutes providing excellent service. The white woman had entered and expected immediate attention. Victoria had politely asked her to wait. The white woman's complaint, I've never been asked to wait before. The service has changed and not for the better. Dr. Harrison called Marcus immediately. We have our first backlash. From whom? Customers accustomed to preferential treatment. They're interpreting equal service as discrimination against them. Marcus thought for a moment. How do you want to handle it? Honestly, the complaint goes in the public record. Our response goes public too. We explain that equal attention means some customers will wait longer than before. That's not discrimination. That's equality. Do it. The response posted at 1:34 p.m. The customer's complaint and Sterling and Blake's response both visible on the public dashboard. Response text. We acknowledge that service patterns are changing. Previously, certain customers received immediate attention while others waited. Moving forward, all customers receive attention in order of arrival and based on need, not appearance. This may feel different to customers accustomed to preferential treatment. We understand the adjustment. We're committed to equity. The response went viral by 2 p.m. Split reactions. Some praised the honesty. Others accused Sterling and Blake of reverse discrimination. Marcus watched the social media feed. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Dr. Harrison agreed. Change always does. People who benefited from the old system will resist the new one. That's not a reason to stop. That's confirmation we're doing it right. At 2:23 p.m., Victoria received a private message through the training portal from Keisha Williams. I was the woman you helped today, the black woman buying the watch. I came in expecting the same treatment as last month, but you were different, patient, thorough. You didn't make a single assumption about my budget. Thank you. That mattered more than you know. Victoria read the message 3 times, then sent a reply. Thank you for giving us another chance. I know we don't deserve it, but I promise I'm working every day to be worthy of your trust. Keisha responded immediately. Deserve has nothing to do with it. This is about being willing to grow. You're willing. That's enough for now. At 3:09 p.m., the Los Angeles City Council held their emergency session on retail discrimination. Mayor Rodriguez invited Marcus to attend. He brought Patricia, Dr. Harrison, and surprisingly Robert Sterling via video. Councilmember Thomas Wright opened the session. We're here to discuss discriminatory practices in Beverly Hills luxury retail. Mr. Chen, you've experienced this firsthand. What changes do you recommend? Marcus stood. Mandatory bias training for all customer-facing staff, public reporting of customer demographic data, anonymous complaint systems with third-party review, and most importantly, consequences that matter, not small fines, not private settlements, public accountability that affects business licenses. Councilmember Sarah Ling spoke next. Mr. Sterling, your company is implementing these changes voluntarily. Should we mandate them citywide? Robert's image on the screen looked tired but determined. Yes, because left to our own devices, most of us won't do the work. We'll promise and delay and minimize. Mandate it. Hold us accountable. We need external pressure because internal motivation isn't enough. The honesty surprised everyone. Councilmember Wright leaned forward. You're advocating for regulations that would cost your business money and require ongoing compliance. Yes. Why? Because profit built on discrimination isn't profit worth having, and I'm tired of building a business that makes people feel less than human. The council voted at 4:41 p.m., 7-2 in favor of mandatory bias training and public demographic reporting for all Beverly Hills retail businesses with over $5 million in annual revenue. Implementation deadline, 90 days. Marcus received texts from 12 luxury retailers within minutes. Most angry. Some threatening lawsuits. One from the CEO of a major jewelry chain caught his attention. You just cost us millions in compliance expenses. Hope you're proud. Marcus typed back, I'm costing you millions because you've been profiting from discrimination. The expense is what change costs when you've been avoiding it for decades. No response came. At 5:17 p.m., Dr. Harrison completed her first day assessment. She called Marcus, Patricia, and Robert into a video conference. Here's what we learned today. 11 staff members remaining. 7 are genuinely committed to change. 3 are uncertain but willing to try. 1 is going through motions and should probably be terminated. Customer feedback improved from 3.2 average yesterday to 4.1 average today. Demographic split is narrowing, but still exists. We have our first community advisory board member confirmed. New York Times feature will publish Sunday with our story as the positive example. City Council mandated industry-wide reforms, and we've received 43 applications for the diversity scholarship. Patricia made notes. That's remarkable progress for day one. It's also just day one, the easy part. Real change happens when we're not in crisis mode anymore. When the cameras leave and the attention fades, that's when commitment gets tested. Marcus nodded. What's tomorrow's priority? Staff interviews. I need to assess that uncertain employee, and I want to run the first mystery shopper evaluation. A black man in casual clothes asking to see expensive watches. Let's see if the lesson stuck or if yesterday was performance. At 6:43 p.m., Victoria completed her 5th training module. She'd been at her laptop for 11 hours straight. Her head hurt, her eyes burned, but she kept going. The current module focused on microaggressions, subtle behaviors that communicate bias without explicit words, tone changes, body language shifts, assumptions hidden in helpful-sounding suggestions. The video showed compilation footage, not from Sterling and Blake, from dozens of stores. The patterns were identical everywhere. Victoria saw herself in every interaction, recognized her own behaviors in strangers' mistakes. The realization was crushing and clarifying. She'd been doing this for 7 years, not just at Sterling and Blake, at her previous retail job, during college when she worked at a department store. 7 years of unconscious discrimination she'd never examined. How many customers had she hurt? How many people walked away feeling dismissed? How many simply stopped shopping at stores where people like her made them feel unwelcome? The weight of it pressed down until she couldn't breathe. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Victoria Reynolds. Yes. This is Dr. Harrison. I'm monitoring your training progress. You've completed 5 modules in 11 hours. That's impressive, but unsustainable. I need to finish. You need to pace yourself. This isn't a sprint. It's a marathon. Take a break. Eat something. Sleep. The modules will be there tomorrow. But what if I fail? You won't fail if you're genuinely trying. And Victoria, 11 hours of training on your day off tells me you're trying. Trust the process. The call ended. Victoria closed her laptop, made herself dinner, let herself rest. At 7:59 p.m. Marcus sat in his home office reviewing the day's data. His wife Sarah brought him coffee. "You've been staring at that screen for an hour." Watching numbers change, customer satisfaction up, complaint rate down, application rate for jobs at Sterling and Blake up 40%. People want to work for a company that's doing this publicly. Sarah sat beside him. "Are you okay? Really okay? Yesterday was traumatic, even if you're not talking about it." Marcus set down his tablet. "I'm angry, tired, frustrated that this level of intervention was necessary, but also hopeful. If one viral video can change an entire industry, maybe we're closer to real progress than I thought. Or maybe you're one person with unique resources doing something most people can't do. Then I have a responsibility to use those resources. Otherwise, what's the point?" Sarah squeezed his hand. "Just don't lose yourself in the fight. Change is important, but so are you." At 8:36 p.m., Robert Sterling stood on his yacht's deck, watching the Monaco sunset. His phone showed the news coverage. Mostly positive now. His honest testimony at the city council had shifted public perception. But he knew the real test wasn't media coverage. It was sustainability. Whether Sterling and Blake could maintain this commitment when the spotlight faded. His phone rang. His daughter, Emily. She'd seen everything on social media. "Dad, are you okay?" "I'm ashamed, embarrassed, committed to fixing what I broke." "I'm proud of you." The word surprised him. Proud. "You could have fought this, hidden behind lawyers, blamed everyone else. You didn't. You took responsibility. That's rare, Dad, especially for men your age." "I'm not sure rare deserves pride. It deserves recognition. You're doing the work. That matters." At 9:42 p.m., Diane Parker sat alone in her apartment scrolling through job listings. Every search returned the same result. Her name linked to articles, her face in video thumbnails, her mistakes immortalized in digital record. She opened her email, found Dr. Harrison's message from earlier. Subject line, "Path Forward." Diane had been ignoring it all day. Now she opened it. The message was short. "Ms. Parker, what happened yesterday doesn't define who you have to be tomorrow, but it will define you if you don't do the work. I've attached resources, therapists who specialize in bias examination, books, programs. The path exists. Walking it is your choice. Dr. Harrison." Diane downloaded the attachments, started reading the first recommended book. She had no idea if this would lead to redemption or just deeper understanding of her failures. But she started reading anyway. Because what else could she do? At 11:53 p.m., Marcus received one final text before sleeping. From attorney James Crawford. "First day went better than expected, but I'm watching closely. Day 1 commitment is easy. Day 30 commitment tells the truth. Don't disappoint us." Marcus typed back, "I won't." 2 words, a promise, a commitment to transformation that would take months to fulfill. The first day was over. 29 more remained until the first accountability checkpoint, and thousands more after that to prove this wasn't performance. It was permanent change. 6 months felt like 6 years. December 14th. Marcus Chen walked into Sterling and Blake at 9:37 a.m. carrying coffee and the weight of half a year's worth of transformation. The boutique looked identical from outside. Crystal chandeliers still sparkled. Luxury goods still gleamed behind polished glass. But everything underneath had changed. Dr. Amelia Harrison met him at the entrance with her ever-present tablet. "Ready for the 6-month review. Ready as I'll ever be." They walked to conference room B, the same room where everything had started. Robert Sterling appeared on screen from his office in New York. He'd relocated from Monaco 2 months ago, stopped running from his responsibilities. Attorney James Crawford joined via video, Michelle Santos from ACLU, David Kim, Patricia Wong. The Community Advisory Board, including Keisha Williams, now a third-year law student, writing her thesis on retail discrimination reform. Let's start with the numbers, Dr. Harrison began. She pulled up data that made Marcus's chest tighten. Customer satisfaction rating 4.7 out of 5, up from 3.2 in June. But the next number mattered more. Demographic breakdown: 51% white, 24% Asian, 14% Hispanic, 11% Black, and other ethnicities. Nearly perfect match to Beverly Hills area demographics. We did it? Robert's voice cracked slightly. We actually achieved representative customer base. Crawford leaned forward on his screen. The data looks good, but numbers can be manipulated. I want to hear from actual customers. Dr. Harrison nodded. We have 15 customer testimonials prepared. Let me play 3 that represent the range. The first video showed an elderly white woman Marcus recognized, Mrs. Patterson, the customer who'd defended him in June. I stopped shopping at Sterling and Blake after the incident. Couldn't support a business that treated people that way. But I came back in September. The difference was immediate. Staff training showed. Everyone received the same excellent service. I've been a regular customer again for 3 months. The second video showed a young Black man in his 20s. I'd never shopped at Sterling and Blake before. Too intimidated. Figured places like that weren't for people like me. But I saw the news coverage about the reforms. Decided to try. Walked in wearing jeans and a hoodie just like that CEO did. Sales associate greeted me within 30 seconds, spent 40 minutes helping me find a watch for my father. Never asked about budget, never made assumptions. I spent $7,000 and felt respected the entire time. The third video surprised Marcus. Diane Parker's face appeared on screen. I was the manager who got fired. I deserved it. Spent 6 months in therapy working through my biases. Started volunteering with a civil rights organization, teaching other retail workers about unconscious discrimination. I'm not sharing this for sympathy. I'm sharing it because I want people to know that change is possible. I was wrong, deeply wrong, and I'm spending the rest of my career trying to help others avoid my mistakes. The video ended. Crawford made notes. Ms. Parker's testimony is compelling. Have you verified her volunteer work? Confirmed with 3 organizations, Dr. Harrison replied. She's been consistent, shows up, does the work, donates her time teaching bias recognition workshops. Marcus felt something unexpected. Not forgiveness exactly, but recognition that people could change if they chose to do the uncomfortable work. Santos spoke next. The ACLU has completed our 6-month assessment. Sterling and Blake has exceeded compliance requirements in every category. Bias training completion 100%. Customer complaint resolution 97% within 24 hours. Diverse hiring practices. 62% of new hires are people of color, compared to 18% before reforms. Robert cleared his throat. What about the financial impact? We committed to transparency on that too. David Kim pulled up revenue charts. June through December revenue is up 23% compared to same period last year. The new customer demographics we're reaching spend an average of 31% more per transaction than our previous customer base. Turns out exclusion was costing you millions annually. How much exactly? Conservative estimate based on 6 months of data, $4.8 million in previously lost annual revenue. Robert closed his eyes. I spent 30 years leaving $5 million on the table because I was too blind to see my own biases. Yes, Marcus said quietly. That's exactly what you did. The question is what you do with that knowledge now. Keisha Williams spoke for the first time. The Community Advisory Board has reviewed complaint data and policy implementations. We have concerns about sustainability. The reforms are working now while everyone's watching. What happens when attention fades? Dr. Harrison answered, which is why we're proposing permanent structural changes, independent oversight continuing indefinitely, public dashboard reporting maintained in perpetuity, annual external audits built into operating budget. This doesn't end at 6 months or even 6 years. It becomes part of company DNA. Crawford nodded approval. That's what accountability looks like. NAACP Legal Defense Fund supports making these measures permanent. At 10:43 a.m., Marcus received an unexpected call. Senator Linda Washington. Mr. Chen, I'm calling from the Senate floor. We're voting on the Retail Equity Act this afternoon. Your testimony last month was instrumental in getting this to a vote. Whatever happens, thank you. What are the odds of passage? 50-50. It's going to be close. Marcus put the call on speaker. Everyone in the conference room listened. Senator, if it passes, what's the timeline for implementation? Federal bias training requirements within 1 year for all retailers with over $10 million in annual revenue. Public demographic reporting, anonymous complaint systems. And here's the piece that matters: federal funding for enforcement, real consequences for non-compliance. Patricia Wong leaned toward the phone. Senator, this is Patricia Wong, legal counsel. What kind of consequences are we discussing? Civil penalties up to $500,000 per violation, loss of federal business contracts for repeat offenders, and potentially revocation of business licenses for the most egregious cases. The room went silent. Crawford whistled softly. That's aggressive legislation. It needs to be. Voluntary compliance works for companies like Sterling and Blake that got caught publicly. But most discrimination happens quietly. We need enforcement that protects customers who don't have CEOs staging undercover investigations. The call ended at 10:59 a.m. Robert looked shaken. If that bill passes, it changes everything. It changes everything that should have changed decades ago, Marcus corrected. You're just ahead of the curve now, instead of behind it. At 11:32 a.m., Victoria Reynolds completed her final training module, 40 hours spread across 6 months. She'd passed every test with scores above 90%. But the real test came next. Dr. Harrison had scheduled her performance review for noon. Victoria sat in the break room rehearsing answers to questions she anticipated, trying to calm nerves that wouldn't settle. Jennifer Walsh, another sales associate, sat beside her. You're going to be fine. You've done the work. What if the work wasn't enough? Then you'll do more work. But Victoria, I've watched you change. Customers notice. I notice. You're not the same person who laughed at that man in June. Victoria's phone buzzed. Message from Keisha Williams. Just wanted you to know I'm shopping at Sterling and Blake today, bringing 3 friends from law school. We're testing whether the changes are real or performance. No pressure. Victoria laughed despite her nerves. There's absolutely pressure in that message. At 11:58 a.m., Victoria entered the conference room for her review. Dr. Harrison sat with Marcus and a woman Victoria didn't recognize. Victoria Reynolds, this is Angela Thompson. She's been conducting anonymous mystery shopper evaluations for the past 6 months. She's assessed your customer service 14 times. Victoria's stomach dropped. 14 times. Angela smiled. You didn't recognize me once, that's good. Means you weren't performing for people you thought were watching. You were just providing consistent service. How did I do? Angela pulled up her tablet. First evaluation in July, 3.1 out of 5. You were trying, but still showed signs of unconscious bias. Body language slightly different with customers of color. Tone slightly less warm. August evaluation, 3.8. Noticeable improvement. September, 4.2. October, 4.6. November and December, consistent 4.8 across all demographic groups. Victoria's hands shook. I passed. You didn't just pass, you transformed. My most recent evaluation 2 days ago showed 0 measurable difference in service quality based on customer appearance or race. That's exceptional. Dr. Harrison leaned forward. Victoria, we're offering you a promotion, associate manager position, 10% salary increase, and a new responsibility training incoming staff on bias recognition. You want me to train others? Who better you lived the failure and did the work to fix it? That makes you uniquely qualified to help others do the same. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve this. Marcus spoke for the first time. Deserve has nothing to do with it. This is about being willing to grow. You were willing. That's rare. At 12:41 p.m., Keisha Williams entered Sterling and Blake with 3 classmates, all black women in law school, all dressed casually. testing whether the changes held under real conditions. Victoria approached immediately. "Welcome to Sterling and Blake. I'm Victoria. Is there something specific I can help you find today?" Keisha studied Victoria's face, recognized her from the viral video, but said nothing. "We're looking at watches, professional styles, budget around $5,000 each." "Excellent. Let me show you our collection in that range. We have several beautiful options." Victoria spent 45 minutes with them. Never made assumptions, never suggested cheaper alternatives, treated each woman with identical respect and professionalism. All 4 women made purchases. Total sale $22,000. At the exit, Keisha activated the feedback tablet, rated the experience 5 out of 5 stars, added a comment, "This is what change looks like, impressed and returning." She turned to Victoria before leaving. "I was one of the people in the store the day you and your manager discriminated against Marcus Chen. I watched you laugh at him, watched you assume he couldn't afford anything. Today, you treated me like a valued customer. That transformation matters. Don't waste it." Victoria's voice caught. "Thank you for giving me a chance to be better. Don't thank me. Prove it. Every day, with every customer." At 1:17 p.m., the Senate vote concluded. Senator Washington called Marcus immediately. The Retail Equity Act passed. 51-49. It's law. Marcus felt the weight of 6 months' work crystallize into permanent change. What happens now? Department of Commerce begins drafting implementation regulations. Training requirements roll out over 12 months. Your Sterling and Blake model is specifically referenced in the legislation as best practices. You created the blueprint for nationwide reform. After the call ended, Marcus sat quietly. Patricia and Dr. Harrison watched him process. "You okay?" Patricia asked. 17 minutes in June. That's all it took. 17 minutes of being treated like I didn't belong. And now it's federal law that retailers have to examine their biases. "Not just 17 minutes, Dr. Harrison corrected. 17 minutes plus resources to force change. Most people experience discrimination and have no power to address it. You had power. You used it. That's the difference." At 2:34 p.m., the New York Times published their 6-month follow-up article. The headline read, "How One Viral Video Changed Luxury Retail Forever, the Sterling and Blake Model." The article detailed everything: the initial discrimination, the confrontation, the voluntary reforms, the 6-month results, and most importantly, the ripple effects. 47 luxury retailers across 12 states had implemented similar accountability systems. Beverly Hills had mandated citywide reforms. And now, federal legislation required it nationwide. The article quoted Robert Sterling, "I thought I was building a successful business. I was actually building a system that excluded people. Marcus Chen forced me to see that. The reforms cost money and pride and comfort. But they were the right thing to do. I wish I'd done them 30 years ago." At 3:09 p.m., Marcus received a call from an unlisted number. When he answered, the voice surprised him. "Mr. Chen, this is President Elizabeth Morrison. I wanted to personally thank you for your advocacy on the Retail Equity Act." Marcus stood instinctively. "Madam President." "I read the Times article. Your approach using resources to create systematic change rather than just punishing individuals, that's the model we need for addressing discrimination across all sectors. Would you be willing to serve on a White House task force examining bias in business practices?" "Yes, Madam President." "Excellent. My staff will contact you. And Mr. Chen, what you experienced in that boutique happens to millions of Americans daily. Most don't have your platform. Thank you for using yours to create change that helps everyone." The call ended at 3:14 p.m. Patricia looked stunned. "You just got recruited by the president." "I got recruited because discrimination is so pervasive that one viral video could trigger federal legislation. That's not something to celebrate. That's a tragedy." At 4:43 p.m., Dr. Harrison compiled her final 6-month report. She'd been contracted for this period. Her work was technically done. She called Marcus Robert and the Oversight Committee into conference. My 6-month assessment is complete. Sterling & Blake has exceeded every benchmark. The reforms are sustainable. The culture has shifted. My recommendation is that you no longer need external oversight. Crawford interrupted. Dr. Harrison, with respect, 6 months isn't enough to guarantee permanence. I agree, which is why I'm recommending you hire someone else for ongoing oversight. My work was transformation. You need someone for maintenance, different skill set. Robert spoke up. What if we want you to stay? I'm more valuable elsewhere. 47 retailers need help implementing similar changes. I can spread this model or I can babysit one success story. The math is simple. Marcus understood. You're right. Train your replacement. Make sure they understand the system. Then go help the next company. Already have someone in mind. Former federal civil rights investigator. She's tougher than I am. At 5:56 p.m., Victoria finished her first day as associate manager. She'd spent the afternoon training a new hire on customer service protocols, teaching what she'd learned through painful experience. The new hire, a young man named Derek, asked the question Victoria had been waiting for. Why do we spend so much time on bias training? Isn't good customer service just treating everyone well? Victoria pulled up the video from June, the viral video that had destroyed her reputation and given her a second chance. That's me, 6 months ago. Watch what I do. Derek watched Victoria laugh at Marcus, watched her assumptions, watched her discrimination captured in high definition. Oh. Yeah. Oh. I thought I was providing good customer service. I thought I was being professional. I was actually discriminating based on unconscious bias I never examined. The training isn't extra. It's essential. Derek's expression showed recognition. I probably have biases I don't recognize too. Everyone does. The question is whether you're willing to identify and fix them. Are you? Yes. Then you'll do fine here. At 7:23 p.m., Marcus sat in his home office reviewing the day's accomplishments. Federal legislation passed. 6-month review exceeded expectations. Presidential task force invitation. New York Times feature. Sterling & Blake's model becoming nationwide standard. Sarah brought him dinner. You've been staring at that screen for 2 hours. I'm trying to figure out if we actually succeeded or just created better-looking discrimination. What's the difference? Success means the changes stick when nobody's watching. Better-looking discrimination means people learn to hide their biases instead of eliminating them. Which do you think happened? Marcus thought about Victoria's transformation, about Robert's testimony, about Diane's volunteer work, about federal legislation passing by 2 votes. I think we created the framework for success. Whether it actually succeeds depends on choices thousands of people make daily when cameras aren't rolling. At 8:39 p.m., Robert Sterling made an unexpected announcement via company-wide email. Marcus received a copy. Subject line, stepping down. The message was brief. Effective January 1st, I'm stepping down as CEO of Sterling & Blake. I'm 63 years old. I spent 30 years building a company that excluded people. I've spent 6 months trying to fix that. But fixing my mistakes shouldn't be my legacy. Building something better should be someone else's opportunity. The board has appointed Jennifer Washington as new CEO. She's 41, black, former civil rights attorney. She'll take Sterling & Blake into its next chapter. I'll remain on the board in advisory capacity, but the leadership needs fresh vision unconstrained by my failures. Thank you for your patience during this transformation. It's just beginning. Marcus called Robert immediately. You didn't need to resign. Yes, I did. The reforms happened because I got caught. Jennifer will implement them because she believes in them. That's the leadership this company needs. What will you do? Probably consult with those other 47 retailers who need help. Turn my mistakes into teaching moments. Maybe in 10 years I'll have redeemed myself enough to sleep through the night. Robert, you did the work. You took accountability. That matters. It matters that I finally did what I should have done from the beginning. Better late than catastrophically never, I suppose. At 9:51 p.m., Marcus received a text from Attorney Crawford. 6-month review is complete. NAACP Legal Defense Fund officially ends oversight. You exceeded every requirement. Sterling and Blake is now self-sustaining. Well done. Marcus showed the text to Sarah. It's over. The oversight is over. The work continues forever. At 10:37 p.m., Keisha Williams posted on social media a photo of her Sterling and Blake purchase. The caption read, "6 months ago, I witnessed discrimination here. Today, I witnessed transformation. Change is possible when people choose accountability over defensiveness. Proud to serve on their community advisory board. Proud to shop here. This is what progress looks like." The post was shared 4,000 times by midnight. At 11:43 p.m., Victoria sat in her apartment writing in the journal Dr. Harrison had suggested she keep, recording her growth, documenting her transformation. Today's entry, promoted to associate manager. 6 months ago, I thought my career was over. Thought one mistake had destroyed everything. But it wasn't one mistake. It was 7 years of unconscious discrimination I never examined. Getting caught was the best thing that happened to me. Forced me to see what I was doing. Gave me a chance to become someone better. Tomorrow I start training new hires, teaching them what I learned through humiliation and hard work. Maybe my failure can prevent theirs. Maybe that's redemption. She closed the journal and slept better than she had in months. At midnight exactly, the public dashboard updated automatically. 6-month data now permanently archived. New tracking period beginning January 1st. The numbers told the story statistics couldn't capture. Thousands of customers served with dignity. Hundreds of discriminatory assumptions challenged. Dozens of employees transformed through uncomfortable work. And one viral video that refused to let an industry hide from its failures. Marcus Chen had walked into Sterling and Blake on June 30th, wearing casual clothes and carrying the weight of every time he'd been profiled, dismissed and assumed to be less than he was. He'd walked out 17 minutes later, having triggered an earthquake that shifted an entire industry's foundation. 6 months later, the aftershocks continued. Federal legislation, nationwide reforms, presidential recognition, and most importantly, thousands of customers who would never experience what he experienced because one man refused to stay silent. The security cameras that captured everything on June 30th still recorded 24 hours daily. But now, they documented respect instead of discrimination, transformation instead of prejudice, progress measured in changed hearts and challenged assumptions. Diane Parker spent her evening teaching a workshop on unconscious bias to retail workers in Oakland, sharing her failure, teaching from her mistakes, helping others avoid her path. Robert Sterling drafted consultation materials for retailers implementing similar reforms, turning his humiliation into guidance for others. Dr. Harrison boarded a plane to Chicago, where another luxury retailer needed transformation, carrying the Sterling and Blake model like a blueprint for change. And Marcus Chen sat in his home office past midnight reading customer testimonials from people who felt welcomed for the first time in stores that had previously made them feel invisible. One testimonial stopped him, from a 17-year-old black girl shopping for her first job interview outfit. I walked into Sterling and Blake terrified. I'd seen the video from June, knew what happened there, but I also saw the changes. The sales associate spent 30 minutes helping me find the perfect outfit. Never made me feel like I didn't belong. Never questioned whether I could afford anything. Just helped. When I left, I felt like I mattered. Like I deserved to be there. That feeling will stay with me forever. Marcus saved the testimonial, added it to the collection he kept for days when the work felt too heavy, because this was why it mattered. Not the federal legislation or the presidential recognition or the New York Times features. It mattered because a 17-year-old girl felt like she mattered. That's what transformation looked like. Not perfect, not complete, but real. One person choosing courage over comfort. One company choosing accountability over defensiveness. One industry forced to examine biases it had ignored for generations. 17 minutes had started it. 6 months had sustained it. and the work would continue long after everyone stopped watching. Because real change didn't happen in viral moments or press conferences or federal legislation, though those helped. Real change happened in daily choices, in assumptions challenged, in biases examined, in customer after customer treated with dignity regardless of appearance. Marcus turned off his computer. The data would be there tomorrow. The work would continue. The transformation was permanent now, not because one CEO staged an undercover investigation, but because hundreds of people chose every single day to do uncomfortable work, examining their unconscious biases and changing their behavior. That was the legacy of June 30th. Not revenge, not punishment, not even justice exactly. Just transformation that rippled outward until an entire industry couldn't pretend anymore. And somewhere in Beverly Hills, Sterling & Blake's crystal chandeliers sparkled over a boutique where every customer now felt welcomed, seen, and valued equally. Because 17 minutes of discrimination had forced 6 months of transformation that would echo forward for generations. That was how change happened. Not easily, not quickly, but permanently when people refused to accept that discrimination was just the cost of doing business.